Welcome, guys, to podcast number 49 of Our Ketogenic Life.
49.
49. We're almost a big 5-0.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Anyway, today we're talking about keto versus paleo.
Paleo, yes.
And you're going to find out that there's a lot of similarities between the two. There are some differences, and we can incorporate a little bit of both, especially long-term lifestyle, but there are some differences, especially at the beginning of what we look at from a metabolic process, as far as why we think keto is better to begin with, and then transition later if you want to some of the things that the paleo offers.
Right, depending on your body and your insulin and things like that. So.
And your progress. Some people have referred this to the caveman diet.
Right.
But,
we don't know what the cavemen ate, in what area cavemen lived in, and...
I'm sure there's some researchers who could, find all that out. But
yes.
We haven't, and we're just going to go with what the current people who do paleo, as far as what their diet consists of.
Right, and what I think a lot of it is, my understanding, when they say caveman diet, it's basically what was available to a caveman, maybe.
Right, I would think so. And then, different parts of the world had different things. So
yes. Depending if you lived in a cold climate or if you...
And seasons.
Right.
So
anyway, what a paleo diet, what most people who say paleo, this is the things that they consistently eat.
Right.
So, which are?
Their meats, their fish, and again, that probably depends on where they lived at, eggs, fruits, vegetables, some oils, and some butter. But the one thing they probably didn't have was, processed foods.
Right. Yeah.
So that's more of a modern type food. So they didn't eat processed foods.
Right.
So that's, kind of like what we talk about with our healthy ketogenic. What do you always say? It's not a bacon and
cheese diet.
And
when you just look at paleo, I mean, it looks like, it's real food.
It's whole foods.
Full whole foods. If you don't have sensitivities to some things,
which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah, or if you don't have insulin resistance, this could very well work for a lot of people.
Yeah.
If you're not, the big thing for us, I think, is starting out is probably fruit.
Yeah, fruit, and the other thing that they included was some natural sweeteners.
Right. Yeah. Like honey. Yeah.
And they probably didn't have honey on a regular basis.
Or even fruit. I'm sure.
Right, fruit.
Depending on where you live.
Fruit, the seasons.
Right.
And I think that's the way God intended us to eat fruit.
Right.
Is in seasons.
Right. And what was locally fruit for you.
Right.
They didn't have fruit being from everywhere. Yes. And so.
And even with the natural sweeteners, there are some what I think is some medical benefits.
Right.
From natural, local grown like honey. We've had people in our clinic who have had allergies, and they started eating sugar just a little bit every day.
Not sugar.
I'm sorry. Honey. And it really helped with their allergies.
Yeah.
And that's.
But it has to be local grown. I guess it has something to do with the histamines, maybe, or something.
I think it has to do with the pollen.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Pollen
from everywhere, from plant to plant, the bugs and stuff. And bugs. That's another thing. Did in paleo, did they eat bugs?
I would think they did.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a source of protein that most of them you wouldn't think would be able to kill an animal every day for a whole family.
Right.
So I would think that I don't want to incorporate those. I never say never on anything, but I guess if you're hungry enough,
you probably would.
I mean, I don't want
put them
to.
over an open fire and roast them, and
could be good, but I don't.
You like your popcorn.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and things though that are different, things that the paleo diet includes or does not include that we include. They include fruit, which we do not include fruit to begin with.
At the beginning. Talk about that in a minute.
Yes. But they don't include dairy.
Right. Cheeses, like what we had a podcast I think it was last week, on dairy and cheese, which are the best cheese.
Good cheese and bad cheese,
So if you're interested in that, check that out. But with paleo, they don't have dairy.
Yeah.
They didn't have a refrigerator for milk and things like that, and no pasteurization. So they didn't, as far as we know, we don't.
Right, yeah. At least the paleo diet now. I mean, I would think, and I don't know anything about cavemen and what, where they get there, but you would think that they would have goats or something that they could have milked. But I don't know if they did or not, But anyway, for whatever reason, the paleo diet does not include dairy.
Right. So that's the difference.
Yes.
And the other thing is starchy vegetables.
Right. Potatoes.
Sweet potatoes, like carrots,
Yeah.
Beets, things like that that the paleo diet allows.
Do they do legumes? Do they do?
I don't think so.
Okay, beans.
I think that they stay away from that. That's a good question.
May not, yeah.
But with a ketogenic diet, we don't do these, especially at the beginning. And just kind of talking about these as well as the like the local honey and the fruits. The reason we do not include these with the ketogenic diet is most likely people start the keto diet after being on the standard American diet for a number of years. And with that, there is an increased risk of having like insulin resistance or a fatty liver. And you can listen to some of our previous podcasts, but we've talked about, with fructose, it's not metabolized like glucose. It's metabolized through your liver. And what you want to do is use up those stores of fructose that's stored as fat in your liver before you start adding the fruits and natural sweeteners and things like that. So you can go back and listen to that. It's very informative. But what we try to do is at the beginning is avoid the fruits and then slowly add in things like berries once people get to their goals.
Lower sugar. Yeah.
So that's a difference with it. So
and you can have dairy on ketogenic.
Right.
Again, we always say it's not all you can eat bacon and cheese. Nothing wrong with bacon and cheese, but sometimes some people dairy. I cannot have that much dairy.
Right. I can't either. I get bloated.
Yeah.
And that's a common, I think, thing that a lot of people do. Right. And if you listen to our previous podcast, we go into that a little bit. Right. And some of the cheeses that you can get, you mentioned goats. There's a goat cheese, and feta cheese from sheep. That if you do have that sensitivity, may help. Yeah. But with the ketogenic diet, a lot of people do start with the dairy, and if you get sensitive to it and you start getting healthier and you start paying attention to your body on how the food affects you, then you can make the choices that's best for you. And maybe not eat dairy every day, but a couple times a week.
Yeah. And some people can do that a couple of times. Some people need to get it out of your system completely. Let your gut heal, feel better, get the inflammation down. Because I know with me, a lot of times it gives me joint pain, headaches. So some of you need to really get that dairy. Even though I know it is so hard, because you think, what? I love cheese, and you can have a lot of cheese on ketogenic, but it depends on your body and are you stalling? Are you having inflammation still? Are you still just not feeling that great? It would be amazing to cut out the dairy just to see. Give yourself, 2 months. I know that sounds like, oh my goodness, 2 months is forever, but sometimes it takes over a month to get all the dairy out of your gut.
Right. So the bacteria.
Yeah. So
and if you crave dairy, just like anything else, if you crave it, that means that you have probably some bacteria there that are used to being fed by that, and you need to kind of get.
You're gonna have to change your gut microbiome and what your body's craving. Those gut biome, that's what they want to eat, and so a lot of times people that's why you've got to really detox your system as far as not eating the sugars. That's why stay away from the fruit, because it's still, even though it's fructose, it's still feeding that sugar.
Well, and then also we have a lot of people even in our membership that they'll be doing keto for a couple of months, but they still crave eating the fruits. Right. And really, that should tell us something, that if you're craving something, then your body is either lacking it, like if you have certain vitamin deficiencies or something like that. But it also, like what Danae was talking about, is that bacteria in your stomach is used to having that. And it's kind of like anything else. You have to get over that. You have to reset your body as far as what it needs and what it desires. And then you can go back adding some things to that. Because with the fruits, there's some things like, phytonutrients that really are good. And I think it's okay once you get your insulin resistance and your fatty liver, once you get your metabolic syndrome symptoms improved, then you can go back to see about adding some fruits, especially berries. If you really want to start with anything, the berries are usually
blueberries, raspberries,
that's where you want to start with, because it really does help. And with the paleo diet, it does incorporate that into its plan.
Yep. So then basically they don't eat processed.
Right.
They do add fruit, which we said why not to eat fruit. They eat, that's about really the like I said, the difference is dairy for ketogenic for some people.
Right.
And they eat, like you said, the natural, like honeys and fruits.
The sweeteners.
The sweeteners. Now, I don't know on paleo, do they think it's okay to eat cane sugar, like table sugar?
I don't think there's no added sugar.
Okay.
I think it's just the sugar that's in there, in the foods.
Okay.
And they, if you think about it, they probably didn't have access to sugar, if it wasn't shipped everywhere right now.
Yeah, just
so they got their sweetness from the fruits and the honey and things like that. And again, it was probably more of a treat. It probably wasn't like what we do on an everyday basis with our fruits.
Right.
So we think God intended fruits to be for a season and to help replenish some of the things in your body to get ready for winter and things like that, and then move on from there to the next year.
So overall, I mean, the paleo is not a bad diet. But I don't know if it's going to meet the needs of. If you're on a paleo diet, more than likely you still are burning sugar for fuel.
Yeah, because you're feeding it with the sugar or the honey and the fruits and things like that.
And probably even though you may not be eating tons of vegetables, if you're still giving your body, like I said, between the fruits and giving your body starchy vegetables that have the sugar that break down your body like sugar, it's still going to burn that for fuel rather than burning your fat.
Right.
And ketones for fuel.
So what we wanted, what we think is the best way to do this is you start off on keto, you eliminate the sugars, the carbs, your body starts burning fat and become what we call fat adapted.
Yeah.
You get fat adapted and you stay in that state for several months, and then you'll notice if you go back to eating some fruits or you eat a sweet potato or something like that, you're not going to have 10 pounds of weight gain.
Right.
Because your body's learning it can switch back and forth to burning fat and burning sugar.
That little bit of sugar it got, it can burn it instead of storing it for later on.
And so if you go do keto and then you go to paleo and you start eating fruit every day, you start eating honey every day,
starchy vegetables,
you're probably going to end up right back where you started from. So what we have to do is once we learn what to do and we incorporate it with the keto, then we learn how to incorporate all these other things that we talked about because, they're healthy things. Sweet potato, carrots, they're healthy. Fruits are healthy. So we're not saying that they're bad.
No.
It's moderation.
Right,
it's how much you eat them and when you eat them.
Yeah.
And
just like last night I baked a sweet potato. We had... probably one between us, a fairly big sweet potato. I baked it first, and then I took it out and sliced it before it was completely done.
Right.
And then I put it in the oven, put a little bit of olive oil in it, put it in the oven, and baked it to get it a little bit drier and crisper, and left the skin on. And it turned out, we ate it with the steak, and it turned out really good.
So
and we didn't have a whole lot, and we didn't have a whole lot of it.
No, like you said, we split one.
Yeah.
So it just gave us a little bit.
Yeah.
And,
But it's healthy, and like I said, but we've been doing ketogenic for 4 going on 5 years, and so we can incorporate that. Do we want to get back to eating, that every day? No, I don't. I don't want to, but there's days, and especially women, and I know we always talk about we're going to do a women's, maybe it'll take probably a month long, like at least 4, talking about the different cycles and the different times that you might need to increase carbs. That doesn't mean you eat cake, but it means, increasing like a sweet potato or, maybe some blueberries, something like that.
And it helps with the, carving up, and it helps with resetting the hormones.
Right, yes.
So
but, overall though, we will get to that for sure. If you're interested, always, of course, ask questions. But so there's really... paleo's not bad.
No. So it has, just kind of like dovetailing on that, the things that are common is no added sugar.
Right.
You don't have processed foods. You're eating whole foods.
Right.
Everything that on both plans is whole foods. We just do different timings and different reasons. They have no added they have healthy fats,
right?
Just like how we have healthy.
They probably don't eat
fats.
as much fat as we do,
and they didn't have grains,
right?
They didn't have, of course, they didn't have cereal.
So like things like quinoa and so they don't do that.
They don't do those as well. So there's a lot of things that are common in between or between the two. Again, it's just figuring out what's best for you at that certain time, so that you can get the results that you want.
Yeah, and of course, we probably, would lean towards doing ketogenic most of the time. Yeah. If you wanted to, if you were missing some fruits, missing some things like honey, missing things like some of the vegetables, again, be on ketogenic for 80% of the time. Maybe once you get fat adapted, once you get
to your results.
Yeah. Then if you wanted to add in some of the other things at a reasonable time, a reasonable basis, not every day, that I don't think would hurt you.
Because I think you have to look at why are you doing any of this. Is one, your body needs energy, and if you start. If you do ketogenic, then you get your energy from breaking down the fat to ketones and those in the process that way. With the paleo, you're not getting that.
Right.
So if you don't have, if you're metabolically healthy, you don't really have a lot of weight to lose, and you just want a healthy diet. I think either one you could probably do either one.
Yeah.
Just like Danae said last night, we had a sweet potato, but we halved it. If you're trying to lose weight, if you have metabolic problems, and what we mean by that is if your waist circumference is more than what it should be, if you're being treated for diabetes, if you're being treated for your blood pressure, if you're autoimmune disease, if you're HDL, which is what they call your good cholesterol, if it's low or your triglycerides are high, then you probably have some form or degree of metabolic syndrome, and then that's when I really encourage you to do the ketogenic. And once you get those things under control, and if you know that going in, like if you're sitting there and you're thinking, if you're listening to this right now, and you think, well, I love my fruit, I can never eat fruit.
Yeah.
We're not telling you that.
Right. No.
If you love sweet potatoes and you're sitting there thinking, I can never have a sweet potato.
No sweet potato with. No, we're not talking about sweet potato with brown sugar and that. You can put real butter on it.
Yes, you can.
Not on paleo, but on keto, you could put real butter on it and cinnamon.
Yeah, and that helps with your insulin.
Yes, I didn't do that last night. I did it, like I said, I baked it with just olive oil and put some salt on it.
Right.
And that was really almost like a chip, a round chip. So those were very, very good. But again, I'd say that's like once every 2 months for us. But that's because
it's just what we do.
Right. I mean, if I wanted a sweet potato more often, at this point, I could probably have a sweet potato more often. But
and if we did, and we started getting not the results we didn't want to do, then we'll just go back to what we did before.
Yes, yeah.
And you can cycle in and out of that, and that's why I think it's important to. You don't have to weigh yourself every day. You don't have to do measurements and stuff like that.
I go more of how I feel.
Yeah, if you notice that
your clothes and what you're.
If you do keto and you're keto adapted, then you start doing more paleo. You start having more fruit, and you having more honey and things like that. And then you notice that your clothes are fitting a little bit tight.
Right.
Then you need
or if you're feeling like
you're probably doing too much.
Yeah. Or if you feel like you're starting to get inflammation. Headachy, just not feeling well, then your body is trying to tell you something.
Right. And, we can't sit here and tell you exactly what it is for you.
Right.
Just because, with us, we're different.
Right.
We can't eat exactly the same things because the foods affects us differently.
Right.
So that's why, we do have a membership that helps people and guide them, and they were able to ask questions.
Right.
And then for the people who want to go more one-on-one and more in depth as far as this kind of thing, figuring it out what's best for you with either just with talking more about diet, more about the things, how it's affecting you, or more advanced testing, which we do, that you can reach out to us and we can have that conversation to see if it's right for you.
Yeah, don't keep going on feeling bad.
Yeah. Don't
keep just listening to a podcast, watching YouTube, and just keep thinking, well, I'm going to start. Yeah, I might. Let me think more about it. Just let us help you. Jump on our website, ourketogeniclife.com. All the information will be right there. let us help you
right.
figure out so that you can start feeling better.
Yeah.
We've done, the work, we do it.
Mm-hmm.
So let our experience help you to not make the same mistakes that a lot of people make.
Yeah.
So, but
anyway,
right.
So hopefully that's helped. If you have any questions about it, let us know. We'd be happy to answer them for you.
Mm-hmm.
But today, our verse is Psalms 127, 4.
Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are children born in one's youth. I like that verse.
Yeah. So we watched a movie last night. It's called Like Arrows.
Mm-hmm.
What was it on? Amazon?
Amazon Prime, maybe?
I think it was Amazon Prime. It was a really good movie.
Mm-hmm. We were looking up another one, and then we couldn't find that one, but this one came up, and it was by the Kendrick brothers. So I don't know if a lot of you all watch any of theirs. Yeah. War Room, Fireproof, the men who did that. And we're surprised because we've watched, as far as we know, all of their movies.
And this was 2018 when it was
right,
released.
Yes, and I had never even...
I'd heard of it.
No.
So, but anyway, it was a really good movie. It was about, and you can look at this at twofold. From the parent's standpoint, if you are a parent, the responsibility that you have of raising your children. And one of the main themes that they had in this was not having Jesus Christ as a part of your life, but the center of your life.
Right.
And that's a big difference. If you sit and think about that, he may be a part of your life. You may go to church. You may read the Bible. You may pray. But is he the center of everything that you do?
Right.
And it really hit home. At least for me, it did last night. Is like, is he the center of my life?
Right.
And everything that I do?
Mm-hmm. And
then on the flip side of that, if you are a child and you have parents who are Christians who are trying to teach you, no matter if you're 30 or 40 years old, they still may be trying to teach you. They may have some wisdom that maybe you need to listen to. That they've had a little bit more experience. They've had some more life situations, and if you can learn from them, that's an honor to them that you're doing that, and then you can pass that on to the next generation, to the next generation.
And as an encouragement, maybe if you weren't, maybe you weren't saved, maybe you weren't Christian when your kids were younger. Yeah. Maybe you didn't get saved till later on. It's really never too late.
Never too late.
Because the Lord God is sovereign. He knows,
your heart.
He knows your heart. He knows when you were saved. He knows what you didn't know. If our eyes are blinded when you're teaching your kids something, you may think that you're doing right and you love them. You're hardworking. You're not realizing that you're not giving them what they need as Christ being the center of your family. Right. But if you're not, give that to the Lord and say, Lord, forgive me for not training them up the way that they should go. You work in their life and their heart. Forgive me for my short failings, and you help them and open their eyes to follow after Christ, and the things that you did or didn't do, just ask for forgiveness. You may need to ask your child for forgiveness. Right. Because all of us know, it's like, well, if we had things to do, if we could do it over, if we could be parents over and do what we know now to do, then, you'd think, oh, wow, there would be so many things that I would do the same, and there's so many things I would do differently. Right. And that's what it's an encouragement to tell our children, to be able to tell their children, listen from us, the things and mistakes that we did not intentionally make. Right. But learn from those. And again, the most important thing that we can do as parents are raise our children to know Christ as their Savior. Because there's nothing else in this world that matters. Right. There's really not. It doesn't matter if they have clothes, food. They need those things.
Whether
God knows
happy or not.
Whether they're happy. I always say this, and people probably think I'm terrible, but I used to always say, I don't care if my kids are happy. Right. If they're in God's will, if they are saved and walking in obedience to Christ, that's what matters to me. They may not be happy.
And happy is just momentary.
Temporary, yes. Yeah. Happy is what this world temporarily gives. But contentment in Christ and knowing that your future is with the Lord, that is the most satisfying contentment that you can have. Again, there's going to be days we're not happy all the time. Sure. You're not always happy with the circumstance. So don't worry if your kids are happy.
Right.
If you're training them to be godly Christ followers, obedient to Christ, then the Lord works that out.
Right.
And that's, you know, you don't have to worry about their happiness, because eventually they'll be, you know, saved and walking in the Lord. So
do your part.
Yeah.
Do what you know to do.
All right.
All right, so thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week for our Big 5-0. And remember, be fit and be faithful.